Hi, everybody. It's Amy with Chilling with Amy Paint and Canvas. I'm just starting to go on live, so I'm going to set up a couple things here. If you're in the group and you don't see it, you might have to refresh to get the live. I'm going to see here. I'm going to pull myself over here. Somebody in my group. And all right. Going live. There it is. I guess I'm starting early here. Few seconds here. Should pop up there. Okay. So I'm going to set up here my other camera. Just pop in here. Okay. I'm kind of getting off screen here. Okay. Going to add this one in so you can see it. And I'm just trying to pop in here. There it goes. All right. So let me pull this up here. Should show. I'm going to set this, try to set up my other Facebook here on my laptop so that I can see you. Any of the, you have to look behind a thing here. All right. Let's try again here. Come on live. Okay, someone sees me. Probably Susan. I'll say you can see me and I'm trying to see myself here. Let me scoot myself over here a little bit. There we go. All right. Okay. I'm going to pop out of this one here real quick and jump over and see if I can get, if I refresh it, if I can get it on there. I can see the comments better if I can do it off my laptop too. So I'm going to try to do that. Here we go. My group. And if that doesn't work here shortly, I'm going to go ahead and clear down the bottom. All right. There I am. Took me a minute. I had to change it over to my business one. There, I got it. Okay. There we go. And this way I will be able to see the comments and stuff. Oh, hi, Rosie. That was you. Okay. See, I can see the comments now if you don't happen to do the other. Okay. So anyhow, welcome to the party. Anybody, when you jump on, if you want to say hi, I appreciate, saying hello, who you are, and maybe where you're from. We've got someone as a guest today on our stream. So I'm going to go ahead and hurry up and introduce you to Susan. I'm going to add her to the stream here. So it'll take me a second there. Hey, Susan.
Hi.
Hi there. Let me switch this out so we can see. There we go. That's a little better. We can see you there. So, hey, Susan, why don't you tell them who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm Susan Hall, and I work at North Care and Rehab with Amy, and I'm married to my husband, Greg. We've been married 22 years, and we have 2 boys, Michael and Logan, and I have 4 grandchildren, and I enjoy watching Amy paint.
Well, thanks. And that's something that you guys can paint, or if you just want to get on here and watch, maybe the first night you just want to watch and then hit the replay later, and then you can, focus a little more on the painting. So, but we have our sip, snack, and paint tonight. So I don't know if everybody's got their sip handy. I've just got a drink here, and we got our snack that we put the recipes in there for, and we made the biscotti cookies. So I don't know if anyone else made them. If you did, chime in and let me know if you made them. And I'm just going to share those, the cookies. I'd like to share that, virtually share that. So Susan, if you'd like to have a cookie there, help yourself to the cinnamon one there.
Thanks, Amy.
Hey, you're welcome. Anytime. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. And I'm going to go ahead and switch off here, and we'll get started and get the painting and stuff going. So, stay on the live, Susan. I'm going to take you out of the thing, okay?
Okay.
All right. See you later. All right. I'm going to switch over here. I'm going to switch it to this screen only so you can just see the painting. So it'll be a little bit easier, I think. If for some reason you don't hear me or can't see something, let me know how that goes. Okay. So we're going to start. If you have not traced your painting yet, and depending what you're going to use, the tracers you've got in the group here, and they came in 2 pieces, and you just kind of overlaid them till they matched, and then use carbon paper, and then you just trace over that. You could freehand it if you wanted to. Some of you might have a little more experience than others. And I just went ahead and traced it on there so you'll see how that is there. And you can see it's on here. So the first thing we're going to start with after you get it traced on is we're going to start with taking our largest brush that you have, whether it's a 1 inch or if you went with a 3/4 or whatever you got. We're going to take the largest brush, and I just dipped mine in a little bit of water there for a second. And we're going to start with white, and then we're going to work our way. I'm going to get the picture out here. Okay, I'm going to kind of explain. We're going to start right here with this white, and we're going to take that and work our way with the light yellow, the bright yellow, and we'll work into with some of that apricot and the red and that to get our sunset there, or it could even be a sunrise if you want to. It's up to you on that. But the first thing we're going to start with is the white. So I'm going to put some white on my palette here. And we're going to go ahead and get the bright yellow out. We're just going to get these colors that we're going to go into. We're going to get them ready. So just putting them on the palette here. And if you didn't get the apricot, that's fine. I've got this King's Gold. It's a gold yellow there. A little bit of that. The apricot is just kind of an orange color, so you could always mix some of that yellow and the red. And we're going to put a little bit of that bright red on there for the very edges of that. Ooh. And we're going to put it on a palette and try not to put it all over my finger, which I just did. So I'll grab I always have my baby wipes handy. Or if I make a mistake on the canvas, the baby wipes will wipe them off really well. Okay, set them offside there. But the first thing we're going to do is start, like I said, with that right there, the brightest spot. We're just going to go right into your white, load some of that white on your brush, and we're just going to start right in here and just start putting it on the canvas. So you're going to put it right in there where that brightest area is going to be. We're just putting that white on, and you can kind of smooth it out if you want. But then you say, well, the canvas is white, but you could leave it that way. But I want the white on there because I want to keep it wet. And then I'm going to go right into that bright yellow. And then we're just going to, now you're going to start kind of thinking, okay, where your yellows and oranges and stuff are going to be. And I'm going around the white here and just kind of work my way around it. And it's okay. Don't want to cover all that white, but eventually we're going to get a little bit of it, you know, with some of the other colors. But I'm going to bring this, I'm just bringing it on out, because then we're going to come in with, we're going to take a little bit of that gold color, and I want to bring in a little bit of that. And I'm going to come down here, down towards the land mass there, the skyline. Just bringing it over. I'm going around that bright yellow. And then you're going to see that we kind of blend that in a little bit with that bright yellow here at the top. Put a little bit more over here. And don't worry, you're not going to mess this up in any way. So if you don't like, maybe you don't like the color or the pattern or something, you can change it out. You don't have to follow the exact pattern that I'm putting on here. Okay. And then I'm just lightly, with my brush, just lightly pulling a little bit of that through the white. I don't want to lose, like I said, I don't want to lose all my white. That's, like I said, my brightest little area there. I want to keep that kind of bright. Then I'm going to take some of that apricot. Just going to get some of that on my brush and kind of decide kind of where I think I like that orange, more orange color in my sky here. Definitely around the corners and up towards the top. We're going to take a little bit of that red in there after we get some of that laid on there. And if it gets too dark for you, you can always add some white in there. Just kind of streak it in here where you think. That's the first initial, just getting that base in there. Now we're going to take some of that bright red on our brush. While that's still wet, you can pop some of that in. I'm just lightly kind of popping it in on the edges, like dark, and there's darker edges there. I'm going to bring some up here on the top. And then same way over on this corner. I want that to be a little bit darker in the corners. Now, if you wanted to take the time, you could add some nice, pretty little clouds in there. I'm just kind of going for a beautiful little sunset here. I'm going to bring just a lightly touching that little bit of red I have left on my brush, just lightly touching that in here. Okay. And now I'm going to take, rinse and mount my brush here. I'm going to go back into my white and just kind of, I'm going to start right there in the middle of that. And I just want to kind of blend this a little bit. And then right down here next to where our grass and stuff, our hills is going to kind of start. I want that to be just a little bit brighter, so I'm going to hit a little bit of white in there. Okay. And then you can go wherever you think, like I said, wherever you think you want a little bit more color in your sky, you can go ahead and add that in there, just however you want to do it. And the sky's nice and kind of streaky orange tonight. I got a little bit of white on my brush there still. Bring that pink in there a little bit. If you don't want it as orange, you can, like I just added a little bit of white to my brush, you can turn that a little bit pinker color. Okay, and that's basically all you have to really do for the sunset part is just that. Like I said, you can add some clouds and stuff too if you wanted to, but you don't really have to. Okay. So I'm going to set the oranges and stuff off to the side here. Oh, find a spot here. I might I'll probably use that white later, but we're going to move into getting the lay of our hills down. And I'm going to take another little palette here because I don't want to, got it all over my finger again. I'm going to put some of that Christmas green, and you can use any kind of green you want there. Let me get my rag out here. So I just blopped it all over me. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. So put some green, and we're going to have, I'm going to pull from my plate the yellow and stuff from there. You can put yellow on there and the green, and just a hint of that bright blue, a little bit of that on there. We're going to take, first of all, that first set of your land here, right through here. This is going to be the further the way it is, it's going to be lighter. So we're going to take some of that green and we're going to mix. You can add, we're going to put a little blue to darken them. You could add a little bit of black, but I'm going to add some yellow and a little bit of white to it as well. We're going to get that lighter color. You can add some of the blue, just a touch of the blue. Get some of that white in there. And maybe some of that yellow or bright yellow or the gold, either, whatever you want there. There's no, like I said, there's no right or wrong here. I'm just going to mix up some of that color there. A little bit more on my brush here. And we're just going to follow that initial, the tracing there. We're just going to kind of follow that. And this one comes over. You're going to have a couple little areas here that's going to come over. But we're going to go ahead and just kind of line that in there. And that white we put that down because we want that to be lighter, kind of show like, the sun shining behind the hills there a little bit. Okay. And you can make that, light as dark, however you want it, a little bit lighter, darker. That's going to be up to you. But the main thing, you want to make sure that it is lighter than what you put in front of it. I'm going to add a little more white to it. I want to make it a little bit fainter, You can even add a little bit more of that yellow in there. Because that sunset's kind of shining up there. So make it a little bit more yellow. And this is just putting in the hill there. Okay. So then you got your next little layer is going to be a little bit darker. So now you can put a little bit of black on your palette if you want, or you can use a little bit of blue. You can even add a little bit of red to darken it too. You don't have to use the black, but I'm going to get some of that green and taking some more of that blue in there. I'm going to get a darker green. I'm going to add a touch of that black in there. Okay. I'm going to we're going to come up in front of this. Now, this one we got a hill coming up. And I know that's not on your tracing pattern, but we're going to bring that hill up like this. Okay. And I'm going to take that brush and just kind of dop it a little bit as we come down to this little section right here. Because we got our red hill. I'm calling it the red hill because it's going to have the poppies in the distance on it. So put a little bit more of a roughage there. Don't need to make it as smooth. Okay. Bring that there. This is going to come around here. And we got that paint on the brush. We're going to go ahead and just bring this, come up behind that hill there. We're just going to go ahead and come up here. Put a little line here. I'm doing little taps with my brush to get a little rough edge there. Okay. And we're going to make that a little bit lighter. So I'm going to, this one over here, but right here we want a light area just at the bottom of that hill. And it's okay if you don't get that in there. But it kind of puts that nice little separation in there between the next one. Okay, so I'm just tapping, add a little bit of white to that yellow green mixture that I had from the earlier one. Okay. Tap that up a little bit. Okay. And then we take just a little bit of that dark color again. And get back in here over that. Just don't cover your white that you just did. You want to just add that in there. Okay. Okay, and then you got a little bit of a hill here before the poppies there. So it kind of starts like right in here. So put it right in here. So, and this one is a little bit lighter, so we're going to go ahead and pop that in. I just wanted those little rough edges. So we're using that light green kind of color there. We're just popping that in. I'm just kind of tapping it. This one's, like I said, going to be a little bit lighter than the poppies that's going to be in front of it. So that's going to kind of make it stand out. Okay. All right, and then we got this little section in here, and we're going to take a really, do a really bold dark color here. So we're going to add that black to it. The black and the green. Make a nice dark color here. Nice and dark. And we're going to come back over here on this side. And right here, I got a little glare on mine, it's hard to see. I'm just going to start tapping this in. So we're going to tap in that hillside here. And this one comes right up in here. See the poppies, the red poppies are going to come right down in here. So we're going to kind of keep that right in there. Okay. That's really dark. And then I'm going back into my light a little bit as I get towards the bottom of this. I'm going to lighten it up towards the bottom. Okay. There we go. All right. So I'm going to give you a second here. I'm going to wait a second. See if anybody has any questions so far. If there's anything that you have a question on, I'm going to take a minute here and wait. We've basically just put in the layers so far of the hills there. You can make your hills however you want them. They're never going to be exactly the same. If you by chance printed off the reference picture, that kind of gives you an idea. We're going to bring this one out. Again, we've put in the light one in the back. This one's a little bit darker than that one. It comes down here. Then we put this darker one in with a little bit of light area. And now we're putting the very dark area right here. And then the next step, we're going to start on these two hills right here. We'll start with this one, it's furthest away. We're going to put a little dark to start with coming down. We're going to do some greens and a little bit, not quite as dark as this, but maybe more like this. Just going to kind of fill it in with green first. Then we'll have another area coming over here, but we're going to work on that one first. Okay. So if you've gotten to that far, I'm going to take some of that green I'm adding, a little bit of that blue. And I said I don't want it quite as dark as the others, so I'm going to a little bit less black on it. You could add red to it or something if you'd rather red and blue there. If you'd rather it be a little bit different. But this is going to be underneath the red poppies that we're going to put on there. So we're going to put this on, and we're going to start basically just kind of tapping our brush. We're still using that big 1-inch brush, kind of where you think this hill's going to go. And it kind of comes up here a little bit. I'll bring it up a little bit more here. And then it's going to come down into this area here. And we're going to differentiate between the hills there. We're going to put a light color like from the sky there in between them. And that'll highlight the grass and stuff there. Okay, so that's where that's going to come. And then we're going to come in here and just kind of keep tapping in our grass. And you're going to tap around your flowers. You don't want to go over what you traced. So I'm going to go around these, and we're going to have some, like I said, some red in there for the poppies. Go in between here a little bit. All right, so that's our first little hill area right there. So you can rinse your brush. I'm going to grab another brush here. I'm going to take some of that white and that bright yellow. Maybe pop it right over top of my little bit of green here that I have. Just take some of that. And I'm just going to get some on my brush here. And like I was saying, we're going to have that little bit of, we're going to leave the dark line here, but like right here where this dark and that meets, where we think that sun's going to kind of hit, we're just tapping that, put like a nice little highlight, and see how that kind of separates that from the other hills there. You can put just a touch, maybe touch up in here. I like kind of a little bit of that dark, but I'll put a little bit of that in there. Okay. And if you lost it over here, you could always add it in there, but you don't need too much there. We will put, when we do the other hill up here, we'll do the very same thing with that light yellow and a little bit of white, a little bit of that green. We'll do the same thing on this hill once we get it in, but we want to get this one kind of put in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and rinse that one out. Okay. Now on this hill here, we're going to take and do the same thing. I'm letting this dry before we pop in the red, but we're going to take and do the same kind of thing. And again, the green, I took some of that blue, and you can, like I said, you can mix your colors however you want. And I'm going to get a fair amount on your brush here. Now we're going to go in between the flowers as well. So on this one, we want the background of those greens in behind there. As I get in behind the flowers and stuff, I'm going to use the green, but I'm going to go a little bit lighter. So I'm going to first start off with my hill here, and I might just leave that little bit of a line. You know, if you can't maybe different between the two of them, you could leave that little bit of line in there. We will highlight that, but I'm just going to come in here, and we're going to be putting it all the way in around these flowers. It's basically kind of putting the distance. We're doing this tapping. It kind of gives them nice little texture. So what's not, with the red, you're going to see that green behind there, especially when we get down in here in the flowers. Okay, and then you can go like I said, just a little bit lighter on the green and the flowers here, but same kind of thing. Tap them in there. Now I'm just going to, as we go, we're going to just tap around these flowers. So, and don't worry if you tap over them a little bit, it's okay, but you want to go around wherever the flowers, in between flowers, you're going to see a little bit of that tracing, but you want to try not to cover up too much of your tracing, or you're going to be freehanding, or have to let them dry and retrace the flowers over it. But just kind of go around, and if you need to switch to a smaller brush when you get to this section, around the flowers, that's fine. You can go, you got your filbert brush. I wouldn't try a liner brush, or if you've got a smaller flat brush, that's fine too. You want to just kind of get the color in here for the background of the grass, and you have poppies growing in the field here. And it'll look a little crazy at this point. So, but don't worry, it's okay. Okay. And just, like I said, just come around where the flowers are at, go in between flowers. And you can, if you cover up a flower, that's fine. You can always add a flower wherever you want to put it. And I have some little buds, here and there in between them. I'm actually covering those up. And you can see it just, if you look really close, you can kind of see it traced through there. But I think that I can help show you how to do those. You won't have to worry about that. And no two paintings are the same. So when I do these, they're never exactly the same. Sometimes I change my mind. Okay. So just kind of keep tapping around those flowers. You're doing good there. I hope that if you didn't get the chance to make the cookies, that maybe you might try them. That was our Tuscan themed snack here. And they actually were pretty good. And they're the cinnamon. I didn't have the hazelnuts, so I had to use macadamia nuts actually. But it turned out pretty good. I like that pretty good, especially dipping in the coffee. It was pretty good that way. Okay. Just going around. I'm covering up the stems. I'm not worrying about the stems. We can put those in after we put the flowers in. So we just want to get that. Like I said, you could paint this all background and then let it dry and then trace your flowers over top of it if you wanted to. But for the purpose of this, I really, the drying time would be just way too long. So we got that all based in around there. And this little section here is probably pretty well dry enough that we could start putting in some. They're distant, like in the poppy fields, you're going to see like a distance of poppies here. So with that, what I did here is I took, and I started with my red, and I made it just a little bit, let's skip this over. Made it a little bit darker. So you can add a little bit of that blue, or you can add black. I like to try to make it like more of a darker with the blue first. It almost makes it a little purple color, which it does. Okay. That makes that red a little bit darker. So you see that pop a little bit of, add that blue there, makes that red a little darker. And with that, I'm going to take my brush, the same thing we did with the grass, But I'm going to take my brush and we're going to put in some distant poppies. Okay. So we're just going to kind of start here, and I'm going to just kind of start tapping in. And I'm going to try not to cover like all the green. Now we're going to have a bit of red in patches where it's going to be really strong, but we're going to try to leave some of that. So this one kind of comes up. Got some back in here, comes up on the hill there. This is a base of the red because you're going to be putting in some lighter reds. So again, you don't want to cover all your green, but you want to, I mean, you got a lot of poppies here in this field, so that's what we're going for. And don't worry, you're getting a little bit, if you get a little bit on there, because we're going to be painting those, it'll be all right. Okay. So I got a base of that in there. And while I've got that same kind of color, I'm going to go ahead and start in here on this hill here and do the same kind of thing. You know, where you think those poppies will be, go ahead and put that in. And I've got, my field is pretty loaded all the way down here to this other row down here. Just kind of popping it in. And like I said, this is a little bit darker, so like I said, we're going to go over it with a lighter red and maybe touches a little bit of orange in there to make it really pop on the top of the hills where the sunset would be shining. Now, as you get closer in here, we're going to go a little bit sparser, and some of them are going to be like a little bit bigger too. Okay, we'll actually add some in here, but just pop some in here a little bit, like I said, sparser. All right. So let me take off that banner. I'm gonna take off that banner, so it kind of drive me nuts. If you pop on, like I said, feel free to say hello and where you're from. And I'm using StreamYard, so it'll ask you to give permission to post your name and your profile picture that you have on there. Popping in a little bit, reds here and there, just not a lot in between the flowers. Give it a little bit of that red in between. Not, like I said, not a whole lot in between there. Okay. So we got that darker color in there. We're going to let that kind of dry up a little bit. I'm going to rinse out my brush. And that sunset or sunrise, if you want to put either way you want to call it. I call it a sunset. Doesn't it just make you feel good? I love it. Okay. All right. So we're going to do the, like I said earlier, we took that white, we took a little bit of white and yellow. Take some of that white and some of your yellow. And in that same old, greeny area that we had, we're going to put a little bit of that on our brush. And this, we're going to get them in between here and just kind of highlight the edge of this hill. And when we put some of that red in, some of it will kind of flop away. So it's okay. Okay, but we're going to just kind of distinguish where those two hills are kind of separated. First of all, with that beautiful sunset is kind of hidden there. So those are going there. Okay. And I'll rinse out my brush again. And then as you guys progress on your paintings, even if it's, weeks later, I would love for you to post your paintings in here so we can see, what everybody interprets these paintings. You'd be surprised how much difference there is in everybody's painting techniques and what they like. Got a little white spot here I'm going to cover. Maybe somebody doesn't want, their sky is orange and they're going to add maybe some purples in there. It's a little stormy looking. And so, all right, so we got those. So we're going to brighten up our reds. This is in our background. We always work from back to front, dark to light. But in a landscape, we start from the furthest thing away. So that's, it was back here and we work our way up. These poppies here, we're going to come in with some red, the bright red. And I'm just going to put that bright red that I have put it on my brush and kind of put it, we're going to be putting it where, again, that sunset is going to hit it the most. So now I'm just going to come in here, and as it goes down, like on the bottom of the hill, I'm going to lightly put that bright red on it because it's going to be a little bit more sparse. And that's going to dry. And when that dries, we'll come back over it again with some little more highlights, brighten it up a little bit. Just kind of think where that, where that sun's hitting it the most. And that's where you're going to put a little bit brighter. And I go, like I said, lightly touch it down here in this darker area. So I want it to be the red to pop a little bit more, but I don't want it super bright. And then a little bit harder on top. Okay. Just come down in here. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to highlight, where the sun's hitting the most. That's going to be your brightest area. And mine's pretty much hitting all over this. Right on, this is like the hill, top of the hill here. So I definitely want a little more red through here. I'm getting a little bit lighter on my brush over here. A little bit in there. And maybe there's going to be little pops of it in there. And as we come down in the flowers, again, a little bit sparse in there in areas and little clumps. We're going to add, when we get going here later, we're going to be adding, when we do our flowers, we'll add a little more closer flowers in there. Just some free stuff. Not real detailed. Okay. All right, now that gives you kind of a nice little highlights of them. And when that dries, we're going to go ahead and work on some of our other flowers here. But when that does dry, we'll come back with a little bit more. We'll mix some of that apricot with that bright red and do some little hits of highlights in there to make those pop on the hill a little bit more. Okay. Now we got a few in YouTube. We should be streaming too, and several join this one. I know a lot are going to do the replay, and that's fine. Like I said, you have up to 4 weeks to replay this live. It'll be in a replay video, but you definitely will have plenty of time to watch some more of that. I'm going to pop over here for a second. So as I said, when you get on here, just, say hi. Let me know you're on. That would be great. We are letting that dry just a little bit, but we're going to get ready to start our flowers. And I have here, oops, dropped it. Got my filbert brush here, and I'm going to show you. You can see it here on the screen on there. I got another one here. This is about a medium to small filbert brush. I'm going to start with that, and you can actually switch down. Now, if you're using a flat one, that's fine. or, whatever you have. There's an even smaller one that I'll probably switch down to do the flowers. But initially, I'm just going to start with the larger one because we're basically going to be just filling in our base color of the flowers first. And then we're going to come back in with some highlights and shadows to put in the details of them. So don't worry if it doesn't, you think it's, oh, that's not right. We're just putting in the base color, kind of like what we do with everything else. So with that, I'm going to switch back over here so you can, again, see the main screen. And I'm going to get some more of my bright red back out. Fill up my palette a little bit more with that red. And again, I'm going to add a touch of that blue. As soon as I find my blue palette, I'm going to take just a touch of that blue. And I'm going to go ahead and take some of my red over here to that. Okay. And I'm just mixing that. I don't want it quite as dark as that other red, but I want it a little bit darker. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and get some of that on my brush here. And we're just going to go in and fill all the flower areas. Don't worry about, like the centers and stuff. You cover, that's fine. And the lines and stuff should show through still. And if they don't, I'm going to walk you right through it. And you'll still have some beautiful poppies. And they just might be different shape than we started with. And that'll be okay. This one kind of comes in next to that one. Now, if you are really concerned about, when they meet up and keeping the petals, you can always leave that little extra space. But I can still see my lines through there. So I'm going ahead and covering them up. This one has a stray hair on my brush. Don't like that. I'll try to pull it out of there. I'll have to grab my scissors later and cut that. I don't like when I have a stray little hair. And I'm just going to go through where we've got all the flowers. I do kind of, take my brush strokes down as I'm doing them, even though I'm just putting in the base colors. I do kind of put my brush strokes as how the flower goes, because you'll have a little bit of heavy paint in areas. And I'm going to leave that center open if I can. If not, it's okay. The very little center, because some of it's going to be dark and I have a little bit of light. Okay. These are not real detailed poppies. I have another video. I posted it on my page and my YouTube channel. You're welcome to check it out. It's a little more detailed on how I did some poppies, a little more detailed. This is more for basics and kind of beginning so that you can kind of get the feel of it, kind of learn how we do it. And then when you're ready and you want to do something a little more challenged, you'll feel a little more confident about it. I'm just filling in the flowers here. Filling in that color because that got to cover up some of that dark green here and there that we did. So that's covered there. This one, we got some that are kind of sideways. You don't see the centers. So we'll do those. And we got a lot of them that show the centers because, poppies, that's kind of what they're really known for, is seeing those centers. And you can do these. I'm doing the red. You could do other colors of them, the oranges and stuff if you wanted. You can make them any color you want for that matter. This one's just a little one down here. the fun will begin once we get all the base color and shapes here of our poppies in, then we can start really having some fun with them. And then I put a few up here up front, and you'll notice that, they're much bigger. They're a lot closer, so they're going to be bigger. This one kind of comes behind that one. I'm leaving that little bit of line there, but you can fill it in if you wanted, but that just kind of, we'll fill that in with a dark red to distinguish between the two of them. Okay, let's come over here. And if you want to add more, grass stuff around them, you can do that. Or you can just make your flowers a little bigger if you didn't get all your grass on there you wanted. Basically, most of them doing the same pattern, so it'd be easier for you to do. I've got, where they come up, got your petals coming down here, and you got one coming off the side, one comes across the front, and one little off the side on that one. It's pretty much the same pattern for the bigger flowers here. And then these ones here are more of, you're not going to see the inside because they're facing sideways. You're seeing the sides of them. So petals down, off the side. There's one in the front here. And one off side. These ones are just open down here. They run right off the canvas, right off the field there. The field just goes on and on and on. Like I said, if you didn't have your grass where you want, just put that flower in there however you want to do it. I'm going to make this one sideways because I didn't get my grass in there. Pop down. This one comes down. That one's going to be in front of it. Comes over. This one comes over the front and back over. Okay. Now that's the basics of we've got the color, the basic color in. And you see, like I said, the lines kind of show. So we're going to put in our dark lines next, kind of basically trace back over some of those darker areas. But so we're going to start with our layers. So the next one's going to be the darker red. And then we'll bring in some more brights. And we'll, of course, do our centers and everything too. With the darker red, I want this one to be much darker than that. You can add the blue again, or you can add the black. I'm going to first start with some nice blue and make mine a really darker red. It's almost not quite purple. I don't want it quite purple. You could use it a little more purple if you wanted, but I just want a nice dark red. Okay. Now this is where you could use your liner brush in here too if you wanted. But we're going to start with one flower at a time. And I'll give you a second. See how's everybody doing on that. So now you're probably still filling in, and don't worry if you miss something. Like I said, after this, you can replay this as much as you want. So it's going to be totally up to you there. Okay. Now, as you see these, and you can kind of see the lines, we're going to start one flower at a time. Okay. So this one over here, we're going to start on the left here. This one over here has the petal that comes down like right in here, down towards the center. Okay, and then it comes down. we got one that comes over. Okay. Then this front petal kind of comes over like this. And that's just to kind of give you, some petals there. You're going to have your center right in there. Okay. That's just putting in the dark area where we want those darker petals to be. And at the bottom of it, that dark is okay because we're going to use that. Now over here on the next one, we've got these petals here that come like this. Because this one we're not going to see the center because it's more of a side view of it. It's going to come down. That bottom is going to be a little bit darker. That petal there, we're going to darken it against the other one. And then you have a nice little ridge here. There's going to be a petal back behind there. So we're just going to put that in there. Okay. Now this one, we are actually going to paint the leaves, or when the stem where it like comes up through there. So we'll paint that on there. Okay. So I'm going to come over to the next flower over here. Now this one has like 3 petals coming down. There's like the one here. That one comes down right in this area right here. And then we got one that comes over here. And or one that comes across the front. Okay. So you kind of see where I put those dark lines that kind of distinguishes your petals there. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'm going to rinse out my brush a little bit. Rinse out my brush here. Try to get some of that darker out. Now we're going to go right into the bright red. Okay. Move this out of my way here. And I'm going to go back in that first flower. So I'm going to kind of show you that we're going to have some of this brighter red. This petal here is going to kind of show up. And we got a little bit of that dark from the grass, and that's okay because I kind of used that. But we're going to put in some of that bright red just on this petal here. And then we've got a little bit over here on this side, and leaving that dark, the dark that we just put in. Okay. And we got a little bit over here. Leave that dark there. Okay. So and that's just kind of filling in the color there. And we're going to go to the next one. Just put a little more of this bright red in here. Leave the dark areas that you just put in there. And this one has like a little ridge because the petal's behind there. So we put a little bit of that red in there. Okay. And then same way with this big one right here. We're going to go put some of that red in there. Now, if we were doing a single one, I would do it a little bit different with you, but we're going to just kind of give you some nice happy flowers here. And I'll show you how to get them definitely to stand out where they should. Okay. Right now we got that. Okay. I'm going to get my liner brush out. I'm going to take some of that dark red. And if any of you you're working with acrylics, if your paints kind of dry up, I usually just take a nice little spray bottle and I'll give them a little mist of water, kind of keep them moist in between. So if they happen to dry on me. This one I'm going to come in here. This little flower sits back behind this other one. So I need to darken up the edge of this one. Right where we darken that one there. See how you can use your liner brush if you'd rather do that. right where the other flower meets. I'm just making sure that's darker so you can kind of see between the two flowers right there. Okay. All right. All right, so, and then you take some of your, rinse out your brush. I'm going to use the liner brush. You take some of your red, and we're going to take some of that apricot, or you can take some of the yellow or gold, and we're going to mix in a nice bright, get that bright red even brighter, and you could even use a little more of that orange color if you want. You want that a little bit brighter. Okay, so then we kind of decide what part of our petals is showing the most. And that's where we're going to put the brightest of it. And I know that over here, this one kind of pops out a little bit. And then this one, I have the darks up on the top because that's kind of facing. So I want it to be a little bit brighter actually towards the center. So I'm just going to kind of put that in there. I don't know if you can see it on there. It's not, I'm going to go brighter with my orange so you can see it. Okay. I think that shows a little bit better for you. But that's towards the very center because I'm going to leave this area dark here. Okay. And maybe a little bit of this pops up a little bit here. Okay. And not a whole lot, but a little bit right there. Okay. That's the lighter part of it. I'm going to go ahead into the next one just to kind of get a little bit, this little ridge that I said was like another petals kind of shown between there. So I'm going to pop in that light orange red color there. And not a whole lot here, just a little bit. And maybe a little bit. Right here's a little bit. And maybe down at the very bottom here. Not too much because most of that's kind of covered. And you're not, I don't know if you can see it so much on here, but okay. So this one here, we got a little bit up here on the edge here. And then we're going to pop in some nice orange color in here. And this little petal here is really showing a little bit more into that sun. Same way with this one. So we're going to put that a little bit more on there. Okay. And then this one is mainly just right there on the ridge. Just a little bit there. You're just kind of highlighting that out a little bit. Okay. And you could go on and on and on and keep adding more and more detail, but we're kind of going for more of the look here than we are the detail. I'm going to take some blue, take some of that, my dark red there, and then I mix that dark red. I'm going to get a nice purple kind of color here. I want it dark. You need to add more blue, you can. And if you want to use black, you can use black. It's going to be up to you, but mix that in there. Okay. And I'm just going to go in here. Now, on this particular poppy right here, we're going to see that center is going to show right here. Okay. And then we got these little stringy kind of things popping up there. So we put those in. Okay. And remember where your petals are going. You don't want to, I'll bring that a little bit. You don't want to cover up your petals there. And then this one does not have a center that shows, so we don't want to put that in there. This one has a center here, and it's about a half a center, because some of it, is covered from this petal that comes across. So you're just going to put some nice little line hashes around there, okay? And that's to put the dark part of it. Now our poppies have a little bit of a light white to them. Get all the water on my brush here. Oh, Susan, I didn't realize you didn't get back on. You have to refresh the page if that's what you haven't done, but I'm glad you're back on there. Okay, so I'm going to take some of that white, put that white on my liner brush here. I'm going to make sure I don't have a bunch of water on it. Now, we have a little bit of white in our poppies, and it's just kind of like in between. So I'm just going to kind of, same little thing I did there with the darks. I'm going to go around that center one, center of the flower, okay? And that's just putting that in there. Same way with this one, where we put the darks, we're going to put in the centers, okay? And that's kind of initially the kind of how you do that. And again, like I said, you can decide if you want to add, you know, even more highlights on your poppies. You know, when we get done with this, you can definitely, you know, take out as much time as you want, but you kind of think where that sun light is going to hit your flowers the most. That's where you're going to want to put the higher, you know, the highlights. Where it's not, of course, you're not going to put as much. Okay. And that one definitely is a little bit more in there. This one we got a lot more. I felt that it was hitting that one a lot more. So I'm going to put in a little more. Go up around the edge of this one a little bit. Okay. And they're red, but they get those orange kind of colors to them. And then this one up around the edge. You can even take a little bit of white. If you wanted to highlight them even more, you could pop in a little white. Let me show you just on that one. We'll just take a little bit of white. I got that orange still in my brush a little bit. Let's say this little petal kind of comes up. You can kind of, you know, highlight those petals that you know. They're getting the full bit of that sun. Okay, so you can kind of highlight them like that and just kind of make them stick out a little bit more. This one over here, I'm darkening my red a little bit because this one, I felt that the sun wasn't hitting this back side of it as much. So I darkened that out a little bit. And then the oranges, the orange color was where I felt the sun can kind of hit it, was more towards the center of it. And then a little bit on the back side of that. Okay. Then you can do the same thing if you want. Maybe that sunlight's kind of hitting these two petals. Okay. And then over here, this one definitely, the sun was hitting it a little bit more. And then the top edges of these two, they were kind of facing away. Okay. And that just kind of highlights them through. Okay. All right, so we're not going for a super amount of detail on these, but we want to at least give them a little bit of highlights and stuff, and that kind of distinguishes. So now you're going to go through all these other poppies and do the same thing we just did, and you get to decide. Now I'm going to pop over on this one because I want to show you how to do, we're going to hit those. Here, I'll pull the picture up for you. That's this one right here. And we're going to be adding the little stem area there. So we're gonna, I've got that dark red. I'm gonna start with that first, okay? Now this one has some dark here, and it's got a nice petal coming up around in here. And then of course this other one comes over. So I'm gonna edge that out. But then it's got a nice little petal come down through here, down here, and down here at the bottom. You can kind of shape it how you want there, but then this one comes over, and this one is going to tuck behind that one, so I'm not going to do too much there. And this one here, it's a darker one. It's not getting as much light as the other, and same way with right in here. But that petal there is kind of dark. Okay. Just put a little bit of that in there. Okay. So then we're going to I'm going to rinse out my brush here because I don't want that really dark red on that one. I'm going to go in some of that bright red. Okay. And I'm going to first start in here. Just want to get some more bright red on the front of it. Maybe there's a little bit on the edge there. Just a little bit brighter than that. A little bit up in here. Well, that definitely want to stay a little bit on the darker side. I'm going to hit some orange, hit some of my orange, and on this one I want that to kind of start at the bottom and kind of filter that up. Okay. I need to get a little more orange on my red here on the edge of that. Get a little highlight there, and we want a little bit of a highlight on the edge of this one, and same way with up here on this. Okay. And then what we're going to do, rinse out your liner brush. Oh, okay. Oh, well, I'm glad you're back on and your internet's fixed. Mine pops out before, so yeah. Okay. So now we're going to take some of that green. I'm going to go back in here to our green. And we're going to take the darker green first that we was using. And on this particular poppy, this is the one that I was showing you has like the little stems that are coming up here. So we're just going to take, and you got one coming up like this, and one coming up over here on this other side. And then it's going to come down, and the stem can kind of go, wherever you want to put it. But I think I'm going to bring it on over here. It's going to go in front of that one. Now, when you do your stems, then you're going to highlight your stems, of course. We're going to go, again, take some of that green, take some of that yellow. You can add a little white if you want. Get a little bit white on my brush. And if I just kind of hit, I'm going to get a little more paint on my brush here. It's not, again, I'm going to kind of hit where I think the sun is coming from. Just kind of hit that. Maybe a little bit right in here. And then down, it's going to come down here on this side. Like so. And you just and you can make that light as you want, dark as you want. It's totally up to you. But that's just putting that stem on that one. Okay. So now we just kind of repeat it. So sip and snack and enjoy. We're going to go through these and keep painting them. Once we get them all painted, then I'm going to show you how to put in some more of these poppies that we put in here, and then getting your stems and then your little pods. I call them little pods, but they're little buds here and there of the poppies. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to switch over to my smaller brush, I think, or you can, whatever brush is comfortable. You got a round brush, flat brush, whatever you want to use is fine. I'm just going to switch to the smaller one. And each flower, you're just going to have to take each one, and we're going to put in those darks. This one has a nice petal that comes across there, and one up here. And I'm putting in a little bit of dark over this, just partly to cover some of that grass that I don't want to show. And we got these two leaves right here come down. Okay. And this one comes up around. It come down there. And I'm gonna put a little dark around the bottom of this a little bit. And I'm putting a little dark in the center there, just to kind of darken that up a little. I'm going to go back in now. I'm going to do my lights. And you can start with a bright red, or you can start right in some orange, but I'm going to start, each one I'm going to start with my bright reds, where I think the light's kind of hitting the petal. Maybe a little bit over here. And this one I'm going to kind of work up a little bit of that red. It's going to be a little bit dark still on that one. Give some of my darks back. I don't want it quite that bright. Okay. Then you can go into your oranges. And again, kind of where you think the light's going to be shining in that petal, or in it, on it. I think most of it's going to be towards the center there. And this one here, I'm going to pull that. I'm going to make that petal kind of go like that. And then we got our highlights. I'm going to do a little ridge, more of the orange apricot kind of color I'm using. Do the ridge because this petal kind of is folded over that way. So, and then these ones you kind of see towards the center, they're kind of curving. This one, just a tap here. I'm going to put a little edge, highlight edge here on it. Maybe up here, a little bit there, and a little bit over here. Okay. And that kind of highlights that one out. And then the other thing we'll do on that one, and you could do this if you wanted to go through and put like all your reds, and then do all your highlights and, you know, darks and stuff, you know, do them all at the same time and then come back through and do the next color. You could, or you can do individual flowers. That's up to you. I know my paint's drying on some of them, so that's a part of one reason. I go back into my dark color here, and I'm going to go ahead and put in, this one has, you see it a little bit more in this one. So put that dark center in there, and then the little dark kind of lines that come up there. Okay, and then I'm going to touch into the white and put that white in there. And if you like where you don't think it's going to be as bright, you can just dim it down. Put your little finger on there, or you want there. It's off my brush here a little bit. Okay. Maybe my dark come out a little bit there. There we go. And then on to the next one. Okay. So we got those pretty much done there. So let's go ahead and I'm going to move on to this one right here. And this one, I got too much water on my brush here. Dry that up a little bit. Okay. So we got a petal. We got our petals that come down like this. This one right in here. And then there's the one that comes up over. Comes up over in here. And got one that comes down. One here. I'm just kind of filling in there with the dark. Going ahead and using that to cover my grass a little bit more in those. Bottom of this one that comes over, that one's darker. Go into my bright red. I'll blend it right in with that dark. Okay. Same with over here. And I'm using a lighter brush. You could use your filbert brush or, like I said, whichever one works best for you. Okay. So then I'm going to take some of my orange color. And again, where you think, when we know we're going to have a little bit of a highlight up here. That light's going to hit that. And I think it's more towards the center on these, on the back side of those. This one. And our highlight on top of this one. That petal. Maybe not quite so bright on this side there. Okay. And we're going to take, again, this one has the dark center that shows, it doesn't show all the way. So I got too much water on my brush on there. Top that off. I do that all the time when I wash my brush. You want to make sure you get all the water off of it, or you're going to have a spot of color. Okay, so put the dark in there. And I actually need to make a little bit more of my dark color there. Oop, finger in the green. There we go. So I'm just, again, mixing that dark red with some blue, a little touch of black if you want it really dark. And using that for my dark center of my flower here. So you don't have to use that dark black, it's really strong. So I'll put a little bit of those little lines in there. Okay. And a little touch of that white on my brush. Tap it a little bit, I don't want it really strong. Okay. There. And I think in the end, like I said, I'm going to take a little more of that white, maybe touch of yellow in it, and do a little more highlights around the edges of those. But I'm gonna go ahead and fill the rest of these in and do that afterwards. Okay. So I'll mix me some more of this dark red. And that's just with the adding some blue to it, making a nice dark color. Not quite purple on that one. I need to get some more blue on my palette here. So I'm just taking that bright red and the bright red and taking some of that blue to get a nice dark red. And that's what I'm using to line out all the dark areas. And I'm going to take my liner brush. And you can use your, if you want, I got my filbert brush, my liner brush, both. And I'm just going to go through and do the same thing with the rest of these petals and stuff. I'm going to do those. So let's try to get, let's see, got our one here that's going to have the dark in between there. So let's go ahead and get that in there. This one has a nice petal coming around over. I'm putting some dark in there at the bottom to meet up with that grass. Okay, and that petal comes around. So then we got another petal comes around over here. And one up here has a nice petal here. That one kind of comes, we got one that comes around like this. That one there. Okay. I got that dark on my brush here. I'm going to go ahead and let's get these kind of put in. These are the petals here. And I'm just smoothing out my dark a little bit as I go. Just kind of helps when I go to blend that rest in there. This one has a nice big petal that comes down over here over top of this one. I'm going to make that nice and dark. Okay. And I'm taking my dark right now, just kind of going through and putting in my petals. Like I said, you can do it both ways. You can do one flower at a time if you want, or you can go ahead and put them all in, like all your darks in, and then come back in with your bright reds, and then do the next ones. I'm just starting with all my darks here. I'm going to put that flower petal. This one was like a little small one. Just putting in those lines. So that one's a little bit darker so I can see it there. Okay. So each one's a little different. How you want to make them is certainly up to you, but if you're kind of following the patterns, it's usually like the petals that'll come down through here, one off to the side, and one over here. This one comes up in front. That's usually your darkest petal because it's kind of folded over like away from you. These ones are basics, kind of basic, kind of daisy looking shapes, I guess. And this one here, this one has a nice kind of petal comes down, and this one comes up over. Come over here. That one comes down, this one comes over. going to come over around here. It comes over in front of the other one. Like I said, you're not going for a whole ton of detail. They're just going to be pretty poppy flowers for you. If you wanted to do like one single one up front, you could do a little more detail on it, and then the rest are a little bit further away. So they're not going to have as much. This one is this one here is like this one over here. It has a petal that comes down here, petal that kind of swoops there in the front, and has the petal over here off to the side. And then the top one back here is going to shine up there. Okay. And then you're going to do the green leaf or stems on that one like you did the other one. Okay. Okay. Let's see where I was at here. Okay. Back over here to this one over here, and this one. I'm going to make it. It's going to be more of an open one, I think. Okay. And this one over here, I decided mine was going to be sideways because I didn't do my grass and stuff the way I should have. So that one's not going to show the flower, the center. And then we got this one over here, got a nice petal up here in the front. It swoops over like that. And then one comes over here. You got one nice one that comes down like this. And this one kind of curves over like so. Okay. That's the darks. Now I'm going to rinse out my brush and come back through with the bright reds. Okay. I go right into the bright red. You could add orange if you wanted to make it a little bit even brighter. We're going to be highlighting, but I'm going to start over here on this side over here. This one here, I'm going to put in some red in here. Try to leave some of that dark. And then this is mostly, I'm going to put a little bit of an orange down here, but it's mostly dark there because that's going to be the center in here is kind of hidden behind this other one. So this one, maybe it's going to be a little bit brighter in here. Brighter, more in the center. That's kind of showing in the light. This one, that's probably going to catch a little more light all the way. And then our red under here, it's not going to be as light. Okay, then we're going to hit some orange. I'm going to go ahead and my orange here. Just kind of come back over here and put that nice highlight of orange in there. And put your petals in here. So that kind of goes out like that. Okay. And I said not so much, maybe just a hint of that under there, but not much. And then over here on this one, kind of highlight this petal that comes across. And this one here. A little more of that shows, highlight that. And this one got a little bit of a highlight here. And then this is going to be a little bit brighter in the center there. And then we can come in and put our darks in there, or you can keep going on with your bright reds. So however you want to do it. I'm going to go ahead and gonna hit some of my dark here. Spray it with some water, starting to dry up. Now this one over here had a nice dark that shows here, like so. And we're going to do the little lines. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and come over here and do this one. This one has a nice center. You really get to see this one a lot. I'm going to do those little kind of lines. And that one you get to see pretty much the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to hit some of that white. I'm going to go ahead and name a bit more on there. And back over here on this one only got about half of it showing there, not the whole thing, like that one did. Okay. All right. So you're kind of seeing there how it's coming. You just kind of keep adding your, dark colors in, and then add your light colors. And I've got some of that bright red. I'll pop in here. Just on my petals, I'm leaving those dark lines to distinguish my petals. It kind of comes out around. This one is definitely more dark. With that dark, it'll darken that. I'm going to go ahead and put in some here with my little one here. Okay, so this one's just kind of a daisy shaped one there. Okay, this one's open down towards the center. We're going to have our center there. This one has that side that's dark. It's darker here, but I got the dark underneath there, so it's going to darken that. But we're going to put the bright red here on these petals. Come down. I'll go ahead and put some in here. This is dark, but when I put this bright red over the dark where I colored it in, it still stays pretty dark. And then these in between where I didn't, the bright red shows a little bit brighter and keeps those dark lines in there. So you can kind of see where your petals, it shows your petals. Okay. This one, again, it's a little more open. Got a petal coming off the side there. This one's going to. And we got this one. Those are a little bit front petal here. These are a little bit darker. Set that dark. Now this we will make lighter, but in the meantime I'll put some red in there so that we have the color base. The first shade, and then you go in with the lighter colors. Okay, this one has one that's coming over the dark, and then the lighter red. That one I forgot to put a little bit of that dark, a little more dark on that one. That's the petal that comes over and it's more dark because the sun is not hitting it. And then I also want this to be distinguished between the two flowers there. So use that dark for that. Okay. All right, send it back in my bright red. This one, it's dark, but putting my bright red over it. And a little more color, and then we come in here with these bright red on the big petals here. Here. That one has that dark one coming across. And the petals, this one, it's kind of going that way. This one has a dark one going across here. And then it's coming this way. And this one, like I said, was more of a side one. So it's going, the petals are going to be dark on this side right here. And then this area right here will end up lightening up. Okay. All right. So that's the bright red. It's just a matter of layers. And in the other video, if you've seen, I did a lot of layering and blending it. This one's a little more basic, but we're going to go into more of our orange color, that apricot and some of that bright red. And, you know, you can make it as orange as you want. You can save that really bright orange for the highlights on the edges and kind of stuff if you want. I'm going to come in here and start putting in, clean my brush a little bit, like right here where I think that, you know, the sun is hitting those. This one, like I said, was a little more open, so I think it's pretty much getting hit all right around there. This one has a petal come across, not so much. So we're just going to do the edge of it, and then the centers. Center, highlight, make them a lighter orange there, the center of that flower. This one is kind of open, but we're going to do more of the center. It's the bright orange. And then we'll put our dark circle in there. This one has one coming over. So dark center. Or sorry, lighter in the center. Petal coming over. And these ones you can kind of see a little bit better on the bigger ones, how I pretty much, I stayed with the same kind of petal pattern, mainly, so I thought it would help you a little bit get used to that, how you're doing your petals. Maybe this one a little bit more right there, the bright color. Okay, and then this one here, I actually got kind of, it's more, the bright is kind of cast shadowing it, I guess you might say. And then we're going to do bright there. And then you're going to have a nice bright edge. We'll brighten that up a little more with our little white later. A little bit bright. Centers. And down here, this one kind of goes like that. This one has a petal that's kind of going over, so we're going to highlight all of that pretty much because it's laying over like that, so we're going to highlight the whole thing. This one is just the edge and the center of the petals. And again, edge. And center of the petals. And they'll have the highlights around the edges, but right now there. It's like this one, and they're going to have these highlights. So wherever you think that sun is kind of hitting them is where you're putting those little highlights. And when we come back through with a little bit more of the white, with the touch of that orange in it, will make them pop even more. Okay. So this petal here for center. Okay. And this one, like I said, it's a side. So it's not gonna, we're gonna highlight that right there. So it's not gonna show as much. And then this one's gonna highlight right there. Sounds like it's raining out. Is it raining at your place? There we go. Okay. So this is the orange highlights in there. I'm going to go back in now with my centers, the ones that are showing the centers and stuff. We're going to go ahead and get those in. I need to get some more blue, more red. Get that nice dark purpley color. Get some more red in there. You get it nice and dark. That's for the centers. You can add black, like I said, if you wanted to. I'm just kind of going with that. And then the ones that are actually showing, you're going to put those centers in there. These little specks around them there, the dark. And then we come back in with the whites. This one has a half. You're not going to see all of it because of that one petal there. And this one, put one right in there. We're going to have a nice center on that one. And then this one's only going to be a half, kind of showing off to that way. And same way with this one. Okay, this one's right here. It's kind of showing that way. Little lines. This one has a little one right there. Not showing as much. That petal's kind of big. No center on that one. This one has one right here. About a half one on that one. And this one has a nice center on it. It's still a half, but it's a little bit bigger on this flower. It's a little bit bigger. A little bigger on that one. Down here's one on this side. A little bit, yeah, just a little bit of rain, Susan. It's see, this one I'm going to pull a little bit of a darker, that dark line in here where those petals kind of go. All right, and there. Okay, and then we're going to take some white before we go to that one. We're going to take some white, and I'm going to add just a touch of that. I want some of that yellow, maybe a touch of orange in there. I don't want it to be totally white, kind of creamy creamy color here. Just a touch of that orange there. A little bit of yellow. Okay. And just going to add that. And we're going to go around and same thing we did with the other. You could use straight white if you wanted to. I'm just going to start adding in some of that in between the little lines, not a whole lot. This one's a really tiny one. Just a little. Between the dark lines and the center is where I'm adding that lighter color. The brush is a little bit too dry. Make sure it's not going on as nice, and you take a nice little twirl with your brush there on your liner brush. It'll get you a nice point. But if it's not flowing good, then you might need to add just a little touch of water to your brush, or mist your paint there. And I'm just adding the white in between. It's got a little cream color to it. It's not bright white. Okay. I added that around the centers, and now I'm going to take that, touch a little water to mine again. I'm going to take that same creamy color, and you could add a little more yellow and orange to it if you want to make it a little more like the sun colors, the sunset colors. Okay, and I'm just going to go through now and pull out some of them highlights a little bit more on those petals. You know, where we think maybe I got a little bit more in here. Highlight a little bit. You can come up here. Wherever you think the sun would actually hit those, that's where you can put those. I think it's going to come around here a little bit. Okay, maybe down in there. Just kind of where you think the sun's hitting it. If you don't think the sun's hitting it in a certain spot, then, you know, don't put a highlight. If you think it's hitting a little bit inside there, you can add a little more in there. And add a little water to my brush. My paint's not moving very good. So maybe dot my finger on there if I've got a little too much on it, I think. There we go. Okay. Just adding some highlights in there. I think maybe we're going to get a little more, a little bit of light right in there. And then this one, that back edge on these, and then this little edges right here on those. Maybe a little bit off the sides because that sun's kind of hitting there. So that one's okay. Like I said, wherever you think that sun's kind of hitting those. And it kind of helps, you know, separate them from the other ones too, but and this one. A little bit there. A This one's a little further away. Maybe it's not going to get as bright. Okay. Just putting little highlights there. Okay. Wherever you think they need a little bit brighter area, just go ahead and hit that. I know that's sun's probably hitting that a little bit better. Okay, so you got your highlights in there. Now, we're going to end up putting stems in there, but before we go too far on that, like I told you before, we're going to go ahead and hit, we're going to make these pop a little bit more and maybe some of that down a little. So back into that orange and red that we were doing with our poppies, we're going to hit a little bit of that on our brush. Let's see. And we're going to think, where is it going to be the brightest? Of course, I'm going to start right here. I think that we're going to get a lot of bright sunshine, sunset colors right in here. Maybe a little bit back in this way. And then up here, I think we're going to definitely get a little bit more up in this area. Kind of going over my yellow, bright yellow I put in there a little bit on purpose there. Just kind of making that pop out there with that bright orange in there. And as we go back further, again, as you get back a little bit further in there, you're going to do a little bit lighter, just barely kind of tapping. It's going to come back. Pop in a couple. Okay. And that's kind of highlights your heels. Okay. So then we're going to you can take your same brush, your little filbert brush or, liner brush, whichever you want. And we're going to take and just pop in just kind of some little bit areas here. Just kind of popping in a little bit more bolder and bigger to kind of show that you got some poppies a little bit closer to these. No detail, just popping in some actual color here. I'm just kind of tapping them and putting them in. We want to look like we've got some more poppies there, but they're still a little bit far away. You don't see all the detail in them. And I've got my red color there. However big you think they should be. Pop in some here. Kind of hinting them in there. Okay. And that's just to kind of give them a little bit closer. And then the ones you think, if you want to add some of those, maybe you take some of your dark red. Maybe some of these are bigger. They're much closer. And you do the same pattern you did with the other ones. You could pop in a little center here and there. Maybe on this one's got a little center. Just a couple little centers here and there. Okay. Maybe pop in just a touch of that white. Okay. Just here and there, nothing, no real detail. And then we've got put our stems in and some little pods or bulbs or buds. I guess I keep calling the wrong thing. But I'm just going to take some of that green And I'm going to take some of that blue, a little bit of that black. I'm going to make a nice dark green to start with. Okay. Add a little bit. Not quite as dark as we did on that one, but we're going to come in here. First, we're going to go on this flower here because we've got, that stem that comes up. We got that center stem. This one kind of comes up and around. And this one. And then it comes down. And that stem comes on back behind here. Maybe it goes on down here. Wherever you think. You don't even have to go all the way down if you don't want to. And then we're just going to put in a stem. Wherever you think you want to put a stem on any of them. Maybe this one has one that comes over here. Just kind of hides behind that other flower. Maybe we got one comes down in here. This one, maybe that stem shows through there, comes down behind here. And maybe one right in there. And this one has one that comes down in here. That one just right there, just a short little spot right there. So wherever you think those stems would go. Okay. So we're just putting in the basic dark color for the stems right now. Maybe these kind of come down here. And maybe we got one over here that shows. Okay. Now one of the other things that we did here, we got like on some of these other ones, and you can connect it to the stem or you can do it by itself. But maybe we got like a nice little bud that's going to come over here off of this one. Okay. I'm just going to sketch it out there and just kind of a little shape, like a teardrop shape almost there. And I'm not going to fill it in with the green because I'm going to fill that in with some red. So we got a little bud coming out on that one. Maybe up in this area we got a bud, but it hasn't bloomed or got color yet. So we're going to just put that one in there. Maybe over here we're going to have, that was a nice bud over here starting. That one's not flowered or bloomed, got color or anything in it. Okay. And I'm gonna just take some more of my red and what did I do with my bright red? There we go. And I'm just gonna take a little bit more of that, and just here and there, you can take, maybe pop in a couple more of these, put the centers in them. Wherever you kind of think those flowers might show through. Maybe this one don't have the center. This one's going to, like I said, be that red bud. So we're going to, it started, and we're going to first fill it in with the red. And then we're going to put the green around it to kind of put it back in the highlight. Okay. And that one's not. So maybe we got a little flower right here. Okay, hide behind that one a little bit. So wherever you want to put them and you think that they might be growing. Okay, maybe there's another one right there. Put these right here. Sorry about that. And like I said, we had these over here. Let's make these ones just a little bit bigger. A little more red on that one. That green's in front of it. That's good. A little more red on this one. Okay. So you're going to take, and I'm going to let that red dry a little bit. I'll get the water off of my brush here. And then I'm going to take some of that nice bright, again, we're going to make a nice bright yellow and white. A little bit of green. Just make a nice light green color. Add a little bit of water to it. It's not very My paint's kind of dry, so I'm going to get that. And I'm going to just kind of swirl my brush again, get a nice. And on these stems here, we're just going to kind of come through and put a nice little kind of highlight. And where we think they have a little light that shows through there. Maybe this one comes over here. There we go. I'll see if that is better. There. All right. So hopefully I didn't lose you too much there. I guess my battery went off on there and I didn't realize it. So I'm going to flip it back over here. So basically there we have pretty much your finished painting. Like I said, you could detail it out, more and more and more, however you want. And like I said, each one's a little bit different. You can kind of see the two paintings there. But however you want to do it. But the last thing, of course, is you always want to sign your name when you finish. That's kind of your last thing. So you take your liner brush, you can sign your name, full name, you can do your initials, whatever you want to put on there is up to you. I usually just do a little bit like a lighter color maybe, or go with the green light color. But if I'm going to sign it like over here, I'm going to sign mine over here on the flower. I'm going to go with this lighter orange color. And my water on my brush again. And I usually just sign my first name. And you have your finished painting. Okay. So just let me know, like I said, if you have any questions, if you maybe you didn't you missed something, a technique you're not sure of, just go ahead and ask them even on the replay, because I'll be happy to answer your questions on that. And again, enjoy your snack. If you prepared the snack, I hope you were able to. They're quite delicious. Good little Tuscan Italian cookie there. Great dipping in coffee too. So, but thanks for joining me. And again, like I said, the replay will be available for 4 weeks. You can have, keep replaying as much as you want and go in the group. And definitely, if you paint a picture, feel free to show me what you've painted or your progress. I'd love to see it. Love to see those posts, and everybody loves to see what everybody else does and their take on that. So I know there's a lot of people. We had quite a few people sign up for this one, so I'll be anxious to see and excited to see a lot of your paintings. So again, until then, next time we see you,